Hello and welcome to the first episode of Our Montclair. I'm your host, Shane Paul Neal. Brought to you by Montclair Local, Our Montclair is an exploration of the people, the culture, and the life of Montclair. We'll be highlighting the art, the activism, the outreach, and the connections among the people in the community. Some issues we'll discuss aren't unique to Montclair, like poverty, the pandemic, or racial injustice, but we'll be seeing them through the eyes of those in Montclair, including those hoping to make a difference. For our first episode, we'll be talking to dancer Maurice Chestnut and videographer Armando OUTthere Diaz about their collaboration, Rhythms for George, a video tribute to George Floyd. Diaz, a lifelong Montclair resident, is well known for his photography, videography, and activism in town. Chestnut, a Newark resident, has also heavily contributed to the arts in Montclair. During our conversation, we'll also be discussing the role that art plays in protests and progress. We hope you enjoy the first episode. Guys, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Hey, how you doing, Shane?
Good, man. Glad we got the technical stuff sorted out. It's always a thing. I want to get straight into it. Maurice, explain to me how the video you and Armando did came together and came to be.
Wow. Okay. Well, the background of this is me and Armando worked together for a piece for the city of Newark back in January, I believe. And everything was great. And I said, hey, can we do more since this pandemic? There's no shows. There's nothing that, as artists, is nothing for me to do. He said, hey, I'm free too. He said, look, let's do something. I said, okay, great. So we started with a couple of ideas, and he brought up the idea of a laundromat. We still have a piece that we did at a laundromat that we're going to release soon. But we did a piece at a laundromat, and it's a location that he put me onto. So after that location that night, I ended up dropping him off home, and I drove up the street, and I saw this fence. This fence just like jumped out at me. This fence was like the pictures, and it was at nighttime. Like it like lit up to me at nighttime. I didn't know how it was going to work. I didn't know where we would put the everything. I waited for Armando to figure all that out. But I knew that this gate meant something to me. Like this gate spoke to me. And and for the last couple months, I've had this like phase of drum and bass music. Like I've been listening to a lot of drum and bass music. I've been, just exploring drum and bass, and that particular song has always stood out for me. So I actually, the version that we put on the piece isn't the original version that we had. We had a poem over it, Armando. Remember that version? We had a version with a poem over it, but I'm actually glad he didn't do it now. Like it came out perfect. It came out perfect as like it was supposed to be, because I think the poem would have been too much. I felt like the way we put it and how eloquently we put it with no words said. I felt like the title Rhythms for George, it was exactly that. I didn't want to cloud that. I think putting too much over it would have clouded it. So it actually came out perfectly as it was. But that gate really just stood out to me. And I told them we got to do something at this fence. And this was actually like the second of this shooting that we had, because the first shoot we had was in the laundromat. And I was like, on a B-roll, I bought my wood. I know this fence around the corner. Let's just film something and see what comes up. And that's what came out.
Now, was the routine? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's it.
So the routine itself, was that freestyle? Was that choreographed? How did that come together?
All improv. That was all how I did, particularly like the days before, like when I listened to the song, I knew that I wanted to be heavy rhythmically. I didn't want to do a whole bunch of flashy steps. I didn't want to do a whole bunch of, I just wanted it straight rhythms that people would feel. So like when I recorded it, like I tried my best to just give you straight rhythms, things that I felt like were ancestral to me.
Got you. And Armando, on your end, your videos have a definite feel to them between your actual camera work, which I need to talk to you about at some point because I need a mentor, and your post-production as well. How did you figure out what you wanted this particular video to look and feel like?
With whatever information is given to me, but it isn't something I usually have too far ahead of time. If even not in real time. I mean, basically, all we knew, what we had an agreement on was that we were going to be in front of this wall, and then we'll put the wood right here. And that's all I knew about the routine. I hadn't seen it, and I tend to to try to time things so that when stuff is going on in the background, it becomes part of the situation. You know, there's always somebody walking by, or you're walking behind them, or something like that. You know, just these these little elements are just kind of like you said, things are moving right along, and yeah. But so I didn't know what it was going to be till I got there.
Yeah, it's funny because I've just started playing with cameras and photography and stuff, and I'm watching it from a different perspective because of that. And I'm like, his head has to be on a constant swivel because he's catching the bus, he's catching pedestrians, he's coming to defeat, coming back and still catching everything that's going around. So it never feels like Maurice is isolated in this space. It's like all supernatural, not supernatural, but very natural and very like compelling because of it.
That's what's up. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. I was thinking a little bit because of you guys about how art can be a form of protest as well. I was thinking about a few years ago it was Kendrick Lamar and All Right, and before that it was PE and Fight the Power, and it was Mississippi Goddamn, and like these layers and like how art just kind of captures those moments. How, especially in tap, because tap is a very particular space. How do you figure out how to capture those moments and those feelings through tap?
Wow. Okay. I feel like rhythm is like deep, right? Rhythm is a language that like beyond the dance form, beyond music, beyond all of that, the melodies, at the end of the day, you got rhythm. You got a beat, you got rhythm. And that speaks to you. For decades and centuries in Africa, rhythms meant things. You know what I mean? That we communicated by them. Still to this day, it's very weird. We still very much so, I feel, connect through rhythm without even after the language. Music connects people in a weird way. And tap dance to answer this question, I have to go back a little bit. I have to talk about tap dance and where it came from and what happened with Bill Robinson and things like that. Because if you're going to ask this question, it starts with, okay, well, tap dance was a form of communication when the drums were taken away from slaves. What happened was they found out that the slaves were communicating rhythmically because they would put different countries of slaves in different sections purposely so they couldn't communicate. But rhythm was the only way that they could communicate. And it was the only way that they can communicate where the master didn't know. It took them a while to find out. Once they found that out, they took the drums away from them. And once they took the drums away from them, they started communicating with their feet. So the feet became a form of communication first. So tap dance was always a form of communication first before it was entertaining. Before the thing about tap dance that was different, I feel, and I'm sure many would agree or disagree, that when the masters saw them, they were still entertained by it. So entertained by it that they didn't even understand what they were really doing. Kind of like hip hop is today.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Very weird. Very interesting. So like to say that is to always, as you go forward in tap dance, once that started to happen, then you have Bill Robinson, then you have blackface. Bill Robinson broke down the first color rule where if there had to be 2 black men on stage in front of a white audience. He was the first one to have one. He broke down blackface, but he was also looked at as a sellout. He was also looked at, tap dance also got the premonition of being of something that the masters enjoyed, something that white people enjoyed. And I think it's a bigger conversation because it's all black art. It's not just tap dance, but I think tap dance got that premonition. I just listened to a podcast today, and they were making a joke about it, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, you're tap dancing around the situation," and blah 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 blah. So it's still used as this adjective of like no, but this was a whole art form. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. So when we talk about like even rhythms for George or like things that I do as a form of protest, my art is my form of protest. It always has been. You know what I mean? But without even once you break down that, once you get past that, tap dance was like one of the most gangster things that you could do at that time because you were literally a communicator that people didn't know. You know what I mean? You were literally getting around masters with this art form that they enjoyed and paid you to do, but you were really communicating with your people. So I always felt like tap dance was always a form. Art was always a huge form of protest and activism, especially right now. It's one thing to say something, it's one thing to put it in a song, but even with a tap dance, I believe that we kind of reach people that don't even know they're being like people will watch tap dance or watch that video and think about George Floyd now, where I think in the dance world they wouldn't have even looked at it as, or they looked at tap dance as this happy thing. Right. Whereas like now it's like no, we're not. We also use this like this also. So that's kind of like a point I've always liked to make, and especially at that time, like I remember before we filmed this, like I was watching the trial. I was literally watching the trial, like and it was getting me mad. That's why I kind of named it Rhythms for George, because it was like, yo, this was the emotions of how it felt watching that trial and watch him turn him into this enemy or this person that was like, yo, he was just he was a guy, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to get that across, and rhythmically, I just wanted it to be clear.
Your explanation reminds me a lot of the history of capoeira, even, where it was a martial art, but it was designed to hide from the masses. So it's like, we're dancing, we're having a great time, but we're also learning how to fight in the process of entertaining you so that everything's safe and everything's cool. Yeah. Which is, yeah. So there's that legacy that runs through several different mediums. Armando, your roots run very deep with hip hop. You were a musician at one point too, correct? Do I have that right?
Yeah, man. I was an artist for a time, and I've been a producer for about as long. Actually, longer than that. I was a DJ before that.
Yeah, so
it's just it's been music. It's basically been music related somehow or another. Most of my life.
So, and it's interesting because I look at your work in photography, videography, and everything else. No, I was saying your work, your videography, and your photography. I still get that sense of that hip hop inspired space as well, still, especially in terms of making a statement. Like you recently had a project where you were highlighting Black women and women of color from the Fourth Ward. How do you see that protest nature of music and hip hop translating into visual art forms like you do now?
I mean, the work is all messaging. It's all reporting. I mean, at least for me, I'm a documentarian, I guess. So that's how I do what I do with style, you know. So that makes me the artist, but I'm really just kind of capturing everything that's going on from, to the best of my ability, because you realize when things disappear. Like I live in Montclair, and I've only seen something like maybe 24 pictures of Montclair that existed, say, 100 years ago. You know what I mean? But but somebody took those pictures. You know what I mean? And so I kind of get that vibe because I like to be I started in street photography. So again, documenting, and that's more about moods or whatever, and all that. That's the way it goes. So whatever it is, that's why when the protests are happening, you'll see me around a lot, because that's where human behavior is headed. Like that's where we are right now. And that's I'm going for what's relevant or what's important to a context.
How, and this is a question for both of you, how much did the pandemic alter your what's the word I'm looking for? Just give me 1 second. How much did the pandemic alter your drive to get out there and make these sort of protests? Because we've all been cooped up in our spaces for over a year, and as artists, as photographers, as dancers, you essentially have to be out and about in the street to do anything. And now you're in a space where we're watching was essentially just Black death left and right, left and right, left and right, as a protest and everything are coming up. How did that propel you guys forward from being cooped up to now being in the streets, essentially protesting and using art form to make these statements?
You gonna start, Maurice? I'm wanted it. I just
I'll go first. First, it altered everything. It altered everything. I've always been one of my biggest inspirations is Amiri Baraka, and he always preached to your art is a journey of your life. Like you take out the middleman. You know what I mean? Your art is a journey of your life. And whatever you are, your art will be. You keep making art as you go on. You are an artist. You're a person. You keep growing. And through the pandemic, it's been like, the struggle has been the struggles, but it's been the beautiful like outlets that have been created because of these struggles. What ended up happening is that every year I do a show in Newark a live show, and it's my youth dance company, and they do a show called Dance Therapy. We do it every year, so of course we weren't able to do it this year.
Right.
The way we were able to do things is to make clips. So we've been making clips, and we've been putting out just media. And I gotta honestly say, like, we've been reaching people. You know what I mean? We've been just continuing to just try to reach in any way we can. So art doesn't stop. It never has. It never will. I don't believe that. I believe that as everything changes, you just have to change with it. You have to grow with where you are, and that's kind of what I've been doing. Just trying to reconstruct the best that I can and find different avenues that make sense and that present the art form in the best way possible.
It's funny that you bring up the kids. I saw the video of the kids performing. There's one section where they're tapping on stools, sitting on stools and tapping.
Yeah.
Super dope video. If I can, I want to actually kind of plug a piece of that into this so folks can see that part as well, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Hey, doggy. I see the doggy in the background.
Yeah, it's my co-host.
So yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else off the top of my head. Is there anything that you guys think I missed that you want to shout out, or what are you guys working on now? Actually, let's talk about that one.
Well, I mean, I guess you can explain the ongoing series, right? Or I mean, because I don't know how much you've mapped it out, but we're basically putting together a series of these things, and maybe not just the tap with the students, but other types of videos like that. It's just the content that we need to put out there that represent what we're doing. And what he's saying is that the art is always talking.
Yeah, we're always thinking of different things to do. Different ideas, different cultural places. We have a series of continuing to do these type of things, and we blessed to be doing it. We blessed to do it where we did it at. Anything that sticks out to me, any message we want to make, you know what I mean. And my art has always been my form of protest. It's always been my way of saying how I feel and me being me, no matter what I do.
Do you know where the series is going to live? Is it going to be a YouTube series? What are you guys looking at in terms of where folks can find it?
Yeah, that will be Armando.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely gonna have to be on YouTube, but also Ironbound Studios has a channel that takes content, so we'll be putting it over there, and any other kind of I guess independent media source or whatever, or whatever you call YouTube.
Mm. Dope. Yeah, thank you guys so much. I know it was a little bit of arm wrestling to get this all together, but thank you. This has been dope. I look forward to seeing the rest of the series whenever else is coming along. Definitely ping me and let me know what else is happening so I can try and push it and incorporate it to whatever stories we're doing going forward. But thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, fellas. Have a good night.